Hey everyone, my name is Mike Jackalone. I am the Interim Assistant Director of Student Activities at Rick. If you don't know my face, you at least know my email and my name by now. I do want to kick off by saying thank you all for hanging in there this year. It has been a tough year, and for a number of reasons, but also including trying to lead our student organizations as best as possible. So, whatever you have done thus far and this year, please be proud of that. This was a hard year, and I think that anything that you all have been able to do should, be considered a success. That being said, it's also important as we think about how we are wrapping up this year and how we transition into next year. So transitioning your executive board is something that happens for most groups every year. It is something that we need to be conscious of, but based on the timing of the year, it often gets pushed to the wayside and often doesn't get done. April is a busy month for all of us. We are trying to get to summer, and so this just gets pushed to the side. So I'm going to share with you very quickly just some things that you should be thinking about, and then we will talk about some resources at the end, as well as what you can be expecting for this coming summer before fall 2021 for those of you who will not be graduating and will continue to be with us in the fall. So why is focusing on transitions important? The first is you want to make sure that your current information and work is being retained and that you're able to build off of that work. One of the challenges with leading student organizations is that very often you all and the leaders of our organizations turn over so quickly. To get into a position and establish yourself as a leader and figuring out what you're doing, and then to do stuff is a lot for what is essentially a 9 to 12 month period. So you want to make sure that the work that you are doing is not forgotten about, and your organization is able to continue some of that work next year. So that's a really important piece of transitioning. Related to that is also the continued growth of your organization, right? We want to see all of your organizations grow. We want to see you all continue to get better and better and do maybe not necessarily more, but at least do things more effectively and more thoughtfully. And that just takes time and practice and wisdom. And so that's where transitioning can help as well. And then lastly is sharing some information and tips. You have learned a lot as a student organization leader over this year. Some things are just passed down through that person-to-person knowledge and knowledge sharing. And so you want to make sure that you are sharing some of that information with the people who are taking your positions on next. And so hopefully they have a shorter learning curve than you did as you got into this position. And on top of transitioning just which can be challenging to begin with, we are still in COVID. So make sure that you're using your resources, right? So use Zoom, upload any files you have into OneDrive, Dropbox, Google Drive, anything. All three of these platforms have free options, so you don't have to pay to upload a limited amount of files. So please share that. If you are doing elections, consider using Google Forms or ballots to submit anonymous votes. And then ultimately, just do your best, do what you can. This is not a normal year. This is not a normal transition. And, whatever you can do will be helpful. So when you're thinking about transitioning, what kinds of information should be shared, right? Because there's a lot, and then there's a lot that can be overlooked. So So the first is making sure that you're sharing any documents and minutes. So this can be constitutions, this can be minutes from your meetings, this can be any kind of transition, the equivalent of transition binders that your organization might have with all sorts of information in it related to officers. Make sure you're transitioning your RIC rooms and email logins. If you have forgotten those, that's fine. I can get you access to those. But also make sure that you are transitioning your social media logins and passwords. That is not something that I have. And so it's really important that information gets shared, and those permissions to post and to edit content is shared, so that that can continue, and we don't end up having multiple Instagram accounts for a single organization. You should also be updating some progress on your goals. Like, so what are your goals? Where are you in completing them? What steps are next? That's helpful. Share contact information, not just for the various offices on campus that you work with, like student community government, student activities, Donovan Dining Center, etc., but your own contact information, if you were willing to continue to serve as a resource. Make sure you're sharing your resources. So, in addition to what did you learn, help share, how things happen and how do things get done. Certainly we'll be hosting orientation trainings in the summer and in the fall for the new officers, where we'll talk about things like event planning. But I'm sure there's stuff that you've picked up along the way that you as students are able to share in a way that probably makes more sense to other students than the way that that might be communicated through my office. Share the policies related to student organizations, related to student community government, anything that you have that will help the incoming officers know what they can and can't do. Again, this will be covered in the training in the fall, but it's helpful if folks have an idea of it before they even go in. Talk about some annual events that you've either continued to hold this year or that you've held in the past. I think particularly those that you've held in the past, for those of you who have been around for a while, is really helpful, because we've had such a gap in knowledge and such a gap in experiences with our organizations, that some of those events that your groups have been holding for years might not have been held for 1 or 2 years. And so it's important that you share what these events are, what did you do, and why are they important with the new people coming in, so that can continue post-pandemic. And then maybe those that didn't go so great and you might want to forget about, this is also an opportunity to forget about some of those events that you just kind of held on to for no particular reason. So it's not all bad. It's going to be fall's going to be a restart for a lot of us, for all of us actually. And then lastly, it's the important stuff is how to update your officers in Myrick. And I cannot stress this enough, because we need to have updated contact information always, but particularly in the summer, and particularly when we're going into a fall semester, where even at this point we're unsure of what it's going to look like regarding student organizations. So we need to be able to be getting in touch with the right people as the COVID situation changes, and as our policies and practices as an institution and as a college and an office shape with those. So besides all of those things, right? Updating your officers in Myrick is also important, because it is part of your annual recognition for student activities and student community government. It's also at some point required for student union office space. This is one of those question marks where we're not sure what's happening with those yet, but I know I've gotten a number of questions about student union office space. Hang in there. As soon as we have an answer, we will let you know. And again, communication throughout the summer. I also understand that you may not have a full executive board at this point, but please enter somebody into the president slot. So there is someone that we can reach throughout the summer, even if that person doesn't end up being the president in the fall, at least the point of contact person and your advisor or your advisors. And then one of the quirky things with Myrick is that if you are staying as an officer or your advisor is staying the same, it doesn't push over to the next academic year. So you need to go in and re-enter it. I know it's a little inconvenient, and I apologize. It's just, I mean, there's not a way that we can work around that system. So let me show you how to do this in case you have forgotten. So you update your officers in Myrick. So you'll log into your personal student Myrick account. On the right-hand side, you will see student organizations under other student links. When you click that, you will see this page. So you'll search for your student organization, search for the academic year. Be careful, because the first one that shows up is not the upcoming academic year. It gets ahead of itself. So you'll put in for 21-22, search. And then here you'll enter your officers. For recognition, you'll need at least 4. So you can search by name, because each student's name, because it's unlikely that you'll have their student IDs. So you can use this. And then similarly, you'll enter your advisor the same way. Now, many of your groups have more than one advisor, so you can hit the plus sign and an additional field will show up here. Make sure once you're done with all of this, you hit save, and I will get an automatic notification that it has been updated. Now, for the advisors who may be watching this, it's in a little bit of a different spot. So under the faculty or staff admin tabs, go to campus solutions. Rick custom applications. And then you'll find the student organization tab under that. So student organizations, and then Rick student organizations, it'll bring you to this screen. Again, we really want our student organization officers to be doing this and not the advisor, but stuff happens. So that's where we are with that. Now bringing us back to our PowerPoint. So we need to remember that transitioning is a process and it's not an event. And so as soon as we can start this process, the better. And for you as outgoing officers, it's helpful to think, what did I accomplish this year? What did we as an executive board accomplish? And for incoming officers, it's a time to learn. Hopefully at this point, students have expressed interest in the positions and maybe have started asking you questions. But for incoming officers, it's what do I need to know and who do I turn to for help? Because we can't just leave our new officers floundering. There are lots of people to help them. Their advisors, student activities, student government, other offices on campus. And now that I'm saying that, make sure you're transitioning your advisor information so that they know. And what can be super helpful is if it is a new officer who your advisor might not know, is if you could facilitate an introduction before the summer starts, that would be helpful. And so make sure that you are doing a transition finally before the last meeting of the year. Do some kind of virtual retreat or transition meeting. You can even do a social event as long as it is socially distanced or virtual and off campus. So definitely consider that. The weather's starting to get nice. We can take advantage of the beautiful outdoor space that we have in Rhode Island. We also have a number of resources for you. We have transition worksheets and checklists, which I emailed out yesterday, but will also be found in the OneDrive. So at the very beginning of the year, I shared with you a student organization policies and forms folder. I believe I also linked this in the email that I sent to you on the 13th. So you should find this folder, student organization policies and forms, in your shared files menu in the OneDrive. And so in here, you will find a lot of things, including an earlier version of this training video. But this, at the very bottom of this first menu, is the transition checklist and worksheets. And so when this loads, what you'll see is a whole list of things that you should be transferring to, that you should be sharing with the incoming officers. And then there are some worksheets for you. So in the ideal world, the way that this works is the incoming officer and outgoing officer pair up. So let's say it's the incoming officer, the incoming president, and the outgoing president. The outgoing president will fill out this form and answer these questions. And then the incoming president, for example, will fill out this form, this page. And then you get together and you talk about it over Zoom, over a phone call, over FaceTime, whatever. And then, same thing for the vice presidents, the same thing for the treasurer, secretaries, whoever else your organization may have as officers. And so the idea is that these questions are starting to help you think about, what is it that I learned? What is it that I need to know? And then for incoming officers, what is it that I don't know? And what is it that I'm looking to get out of this position? So that is there for you. I will also be holding office hours specifically to go over transitioning on Wednesday, April 28th, which is in 2 weeks at 12:30. The link is there. It's tinyurl.com/rickorg428. But if that doesn't work, just shoot me an email and we can figure out a time to meet separately. Happy to do it. This is part of my job. I really like working with organizations as they transition. So please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to work with you all. So the big question, what will the fall look like? The answer is, we don't necessarily know. And more information will be coming out this summer. And this is as of April 14th at 1:00 when I'm recording this. What I can tell you is that we will continue to hold organization orientation meetings, probably starting in August and then into September. We will likely hold a virtual option because that seems to work for some folks. Hopefully, we'll also be able to offer an in-person option for you all who would like to do that. We are tentatively planning on having welcome weeks starting August 23rd and going until September 6th. And your organization might have the opportunity to participate in that. So feel free to get in touch with me if you are interested. We are in the beginning stages of planning of what those weeks will look like. We do have a campus activities day tentatively scheduled on September 15th during free period. That is if we are able to host it in person. Again, as we get closer to the fall, we will know more information, and that might change. So again, this is why it's super important that we have someone listed in Myrick that we can get in touch with in the coming months. So lastly, for those of you who are have continued on into this year from last year, you'll remember that we did promo videos for all of your organizations. We are doing that again. So last year, many of your organizations uploaded a video to a folder called student organization promo videos, go figure. And these videos, they're short, they're just a minute or two, a couple minutes at the most, and they are getting uploaded into Blackboard, similar to last year, for the incoming students to check out as they're going through their orientation program. So many of your groups, thank you. You participated in this last year, but your officers are likely out of date at this point, and some of the information is likely out of date at this point. So please go in and check them out and see if they are accurate. If they are not, please take a few minutes and put one together and replace the one in here. So actually go in and delete your old one and upload your new one, so that so that we have some updated information regarding your student organization for the incoming orientation. I will follow up with emails on this, but I wanted to let you know. So this is due by May 4th. So you have a couple of weeks to do that. And then lastly, here's my contact information. Just pick one of the probably million emails that I have sent you over the last few months, and get back to me. My phone number is not the best because I'm still working primarily from home, but it's mjackalone@rick.edu is my email. And I hope to hear from you. I hope that your transitions are successful, and I hope that you do a great job with your upcoming finals, and are able to have a safe and relaxing summer, which will be here very, very soon. So thanks again for hanging out. Thanks again for watching. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to be helpful, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.